So welcome, Robert. Welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you on. I'm excited to chat with you today. So if you don't mind introducing yourself a bit and telling us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Andrés. My name is Robert Brill. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Brill Media, and we are an ad buying firm. Our job is to run ads on search, on social, on Hulu, on Roku, etc., with the goal of generating leads and driving sales for businesses. And I've been in the advertising business for 20 years, 10 of which has been growing my company, bootstrapped it, and our company has been 10 times on the Inc. 5000 and Financial Times 500.
Awesome. Impressive resume there. So I was excited to have you on. I know advertising is something that I'm looking into. I saw that, you correct me if I'm wrong, that you primarily help people with meta ads at the moment, sort of with the consulting firm there. So if you wanted to expand a little bit upon that, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're actually media agnostic. So I'm actually not here to sell you specifically Meta ads or Google or anything in the marketplace. What I'm here to do is ensure that you have our advertisers have a great marketing and advertising strategy, because that helps you ensure that you don't make bad decisions with your advertising investment. And then secondly, our job is to activate that plan to ensure you achieve the business goals that you're looking for. Now, the reality is that 45% of all digital advertising will be on Google and Meta in 2024. So invariably, we're going to have to be on Meta and Google. But if everyone tomorrow started reading the newspaper, we'd go back to buying ads on newspapers.
Awesome. And I had a guest on recently. It's the first thing I wanted to touch on is I had a guest recently that basically said that he had started running Facebook ads and that he had his sentiment was basically, well, I guess I must not be very good at making content, because running Facebook ads, Instagram included, right, it isn't working very well for him, and so he took different strategy. And sort of the solution that I've come to is trying to focus on doing organic social media content. And then if it works organically, I'm now planning on doing, turning that into a paid, boosting it on Instagram and things like that. So I was just curious if you had any comments on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely have some points of view. The first is that whether or not you advertise or whatever other marketing efforts you do, whether it's posting on social or doing search engine optimization or PR and publicity, a lot of that depends on where you are with your business. A big part of success of advertising is having product market fit. And product market fit is that thing where you can talk to people or go online and talk about your business and people buy from you. But if people aren't buying from you, there's a few reasons why they're not buying. They don't like what you have. It's priced too high or too low, or you're not talking about it in the right way. So you have a really great product, but you're talking about the thing that people don't really care about your product, and you don't realize that you don't have the insight about why people are buying your business. So this goes back to the strategy, right? When we talk about before doing anything on your advertising, it's a strategy. It's one of the components of the strategy is going to be, well, I'll just list them out. Number one, what are your economics? How much does it cost to acquire a customer? What is the lifetime value of the customer? And if you don't know that, we can help you determine that. Who is your customer? What are the signals that you understand are your customers putting out there that makes you understand that they are your customers? Like what media do they consume? Where do they spend their time? Type of family do they have? Where do they live? What do they buy? Where do they travel? What is their income? All those different characteristics. Important there is to understand the transformative value. That's that insight. Why are people buying from you? That's important, because people might be buying for you from your business for a very different reason than you think that they're buying for you. So understanding that transformative value is important. And then you want to look at your marketing history. What have you done in the past to grow your business? What worked? What didn't? How was all that tracked? And then the last thing I think as part of a strategy that's relevant here is going to be testing. What do you want to learn? Because advertising is a real-time focus group, right? Most people think about advertising and say, okay, I'm going to put in money. I'm going to get money back in the form of sales. But the second benefit of advertising is understanding insight from your customers via the data and advertising so that you can make better business decisions in the future. So advertising agencies like ours, sure, they need to perform. That's a given. You need leads and sales to grow your bottom line. But often not talked about are the insights that will help you propel your business forward with other points of information. So for the business that is running ads on Meta, Facebook and Instagram, and it's not working, there's a whole slew of reasons why it may not work. And the first and the catch-all for that is the following. You're not an expert in Facebook advertising, and you're not a marketing or advertising expert. And that's okay. Because you know what? I'm not an expert in fixing my car. I'm not an expert in manufacturing the lights that are here or assembling a pen. No, I know how to do one thing really well in my life. And when my car is not doing well, I go to a mechanic. When I don't feel well, I go to a doctor. And you talk to lawyers, you talk to all these professional experts. And so business owners are being penny rich and pound foolish by treating marketing and advertising as a different type of thing that they think everyone can do, so they should be able to do it. Which happens because we're on social media so often and we're consuming content on all these different channels. It seems very accessible, and it is. That's the bias. It is. Boosting a post on Meta is one of the worst things you can do for your business. It's a complete waste of money for a couple reasons. Meta sets up the boosting post. It's the easy button. Remember Staples a long time ago had the easy button?
Mhm.
It's the easy button for advertising to make you, the local flower shop or the restaurant or yoga studio or whatever, make you feel like you're in the game. Look, I got it covered. I'm doing advertising. It's great. And they don't expect money in or leads. They're like, all right, I got, 1,000 more people to see my content. Like when you boost a post, they say you can reach 240 more people or 2,400 more people by boosting this post. But that's not what matters. Likes, comments, shares, and engagement don't pay the bills. And marketers too often are selling in likes, comments, and shares or impressions or views as a proxy for success. But what matters is money coming into your business. How busy is your accountant? That's what matters. So rather than boosting posts, we never boost posts in our business, and we dramatically advocate for that for other clients not to do that as well, clients and other businesses not to do that as well. Instead, take the money you're putting into boosting posts, run it through Facebook's Business Manager, which is work. It's complex. Run the ads that way, and you'll learn a few things. Number one, you'll learn about what your customers want and don't want from your business. You'll be able to track which creative executions are actually more interesting than others. We've literally had clients tell us, we just want to boost this post because we need eyeballs on it because we spent the money to create it. So there's no indication that that's a particularly good ad or not a good ad. But I can tell you, over the course of time, over the course of a month, repeating a cycle monthly, I can tell you which is your absolute best ad. There's a control and variable test that will give you that insight. So businesses who are spending money boosting posts are not giving themselves the true value that they can possibly get through advertising.
And by ads, then in this case, if you're not boosting, would you just mean organic social media content?
What that means is, so when you scroll on Facebook, you'll see, I don't know, 4 or 5 posts that are relevant to you. And then you're going to see one post that's a sponsored on it. It's an ad. So whether you're boosting a post, so boosting a post is advertising. Buying advertising through Facebook Business Manager or Business Suite is also advertising. So the difference between advertising and social content posting is the following. Social content posting, you're going to post for, the whole year, and you're going to get a few hundred views on your post. And maybe one will get a few thousand. And if you're lucky on TikTok, you're going to get one with 200,000 views. I have one video. Literally, I've never had I have one video right now going viral that has over 200,000 views. And the last one that went viral was like 3 years ago with 60,000 views. I can't build a business on that level of inconsistency. No one can. And the second thing is you need more than a couple hundred views on your posts. So the way to bridge that gap is with advertising. You get to tell Meta how many people you want to reach. I want to reach 2,000. I want to reach 20,000, 200,000, 2 million people, whatever the case is. And for that advertising investment, you need to figure out how much money you're going to get back in the form of sales. None of that is accounted for when you boost a post, but to the consumer, it appears the same way. It's just an ad.
And one thing that I've realized, and you mentioned this, is just having your audience very well defined. Like you said, what's the salary of the person that, getting down to the nitty gritty of what your person that you're targeting towards. And one thing that I discovered that I found is very odd, and I'm curious how that goes from if we're not going to boost and we're going to create regular ads. One of the things that I realized is a lot of brands are just posting content that is not even showing their product. It's a lot of just related content. They're trying to brand down a specific area. So, like my brand personally, we're just shooting down a brand of self-development, sort of male self-development, and that's our target audience, right? It could be anything, right? I mean, I know one lady that's targeting women that have cats. It's like something super specific, and all the content on the brand has nothing to do with the product itself. So how does that, and that seems to work a lot better than just posting, content specifically about your product that you're selling. So how does that transfer over to ads? How would you combine the two, or what is your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, marketing efforts need to work together, just like advertising channels need to work together. So posting content on social media is going to be relevant for your business, but it needs to play into a larger marketing strategy. So the fundamental benefit of posting on social media is that it's, relatively speaking, inexpensive. Like it's a few $100s to create stuff where you do it yourself, right? It's relatively inexpensive. Whereas advertising is you have to pay for every ad impression every time people see an ad. And it requires, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, millions of dollars, right? The drawback of social media is that you can post forever and it may have you're not reaching a lot of people. And I'll give you the example. When I started my business, I hired someone to post on Twitter. I gave him some frameworks on what I wanted him to post about. He posted it on Twitter for 1.5 years and I got a client. So that's great. If you have 1.5 years and you don't have a lot of money, post every day and you'll get a client. But if you need a client like in the next 30 days, run ads. So when you post on social media, I think now let's go into the strategies and tactics that work, that are successful on social media. There's two kind of approaches. And let's actually take it step back. There's different formats, right? You have image, you have animations, you have writing, and then you have video. I'm going to talk about video right now. The common methodology, the common advice on video content is to say, provide value, share information, share insights. For me, it would be videos that say, here are the 7 things you're doing wrong on Google and how to improve them so your Google ads work. Then there's meet you where you're at content. And where you're at content is content that really communicates the value proposition or the problem that the customer is feeling at this very moment. The fundamental idea is I can give you all the solutions you want. I can hand them to you. I can make a 40-minute training on it. But you're not going to engage with the solution until you understand that I understand your problem. I can verbalize your problem, and it's possible I can verbalize your problem better than you can even verbalize it. So I have to have such intrinsic knowledge about your challenges that I can express them to you, and you can nod your head and say, wow, that's exactly what I'm feeling. You must have the solution because you clearly understand my problem. So that's meet you where you're at videos. And the idea behind those videos is you spend a lot of time saying, do you have this problem or do you have that problem? Or I understand it's hard to do marketing because of this and that and that. And you think boosting a post is the best way, but you still just keep getting likes, comments, and shares. Where's the money? So by expressing the problem, then I get at the very end of the content, I can say, hey, we do marketing and advertising and we can certainly help you. So that's the two types of content: the value content where you educate people, and then the meet them where they're at video, which I find is more effective and more interesting. So when we talk about social content, number one, you're absolutely right. It is absolutely fundamental to create content that is not about selling people. It's about being conversational, being part of the community. Realtors and real estate agents do this really well, right? They sell houses. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun about how real estate marketers work. The product is the same, the fees are the same, the solutions are the same. It's just a matter of quality, who's going to be better at their job and more attentive at their job, right? So it's hard to differentiate those people. And what they do is they go to market talking about the community. They need to demonstrate that they are the expert in the local community. And by doing that, they acquire customers. And the way they acquire customers with customer service is by talking about the community, the best restaurants, the best dentists, the best malls, the best shops, etc. So it's really about the fundamentals of marketing, which is people need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. And that's when people will be able to transact. So you can do that over time with social media content posting. Don't be salesy, be part of the community, and talk like you would normally would in a conversation. That's my approach on social media.
So do you find, somebody comes to mind, I don't know if you ever heard of this woman called Lauren Tickner. She's on Instagram, and she's big on organic social media and doesn't really run ads at all. And one of the things she talks about is having content funnel. So sort of the eye-grabbing content, the somewhat convincing content, and then the content for the people that are just ready to make a move. So do you find that sort of funnel makes sense in advertising as well?
Yeah, I mean, yes. The short answer is yes. The approach for advertising is at the top of the funnel, you have demand. Just know that we exist and here's what we do. In the middle of the funnel, you have consideration, which is now that you know what we do, here's the prices, here's the different ways you can customize it, here are more details about what we do. And at the bottom of the funnel, you're saying, buy from us now, please, because now you clearly understand, right? So the thing that I think a lot of marketers get wrong about advertising is that they are not looking at advertising channels as complementary. It's like a symphony. A symphony gets created with many different instruments, not just like one. You're not pitting the violin against the other violinist or the trombone, right? Like individually, they're not so good, but collectively with the tens or hundreds of people who are in the orchestra, they create the sound. And it's similar to advertising and marketing. Your Google ads have a specific role on the advertising campaign. Your Meta ads have a different role, your TikTok ads, your Hulu ads. And so that's what you're missing out on when you're doing it yourself. Because when you do it yourself, you're like, all right, I can just buy ads. I watched the video or took a course or spent many hours researching it, but you don't have the context for what's right to do and what's not right to do. You never know if the course you're watching is from 3 years ago and the tactics have dramatically changed. You don't know if the course that you watch or the people that you're watching is recycled information and if they're actually angling to get you as a customer, right? And then they're not going to give you everything you need to be successful. And the last part about the person you mentioned is, being creative is really hard. There are many people who do it well, but it depends on the type of business person you are. And when you actually run a business, accounting, invoicing, human resources, manufacturing, account management, culture, all those things are relevant, and it's hard for one person to be creative. You can hire it out, absolutely, but that becomes very expensive. So the reason why we focus on advertising is for the following three words. It's predictable, it's repeatable, and it's scalable. You can spend $1,000 today, this month, and then $10,000 in a few months and get about 10 times the benefit. And then in a few months, you can spend $100,000 and get 10 times the benefit of that, of the $10,000 spent. The core idea here is businesses need that predictable, repeatable, and scalable business growth. You need to know your costs. You need to ensure that your business has the right staff in place. So a lot of, we're in the advertising business, but really I'm a businessman. And a lot of the sort of added value that comes out of our services is the insight into the business that will make your business better from advertising, but the insights also that come from advertising.
So what would you say to somebody that's bootstrapping at the moment and doesn't maybe have the funds to hire somebody to help them with advertising?
Right. So number one, you may not need to. So there's a few things. I bootstrapped my company literally from zero. Like I didn't, a lot of agencies get started because they have a client who comes with them and then they have a built-in client already in their new agency. At zero. I just started from scratch. Now I had 10 years in advertising and I had relationships, but I had zero clients. So I've gone through the entrepreneurial journey. I know what it means to bootstrap because that's what I did for myself. And what do you need to bootstrap? Number one, you need money in the bank or time or low costs, right? Some combination of that.
Sort of why I'm in South America at the moment. So,
Well, look, if you're going to go see Messi, that's a big W for living in South America. Honestly, that is super exciting for me. I got to watch that today.
I'm pretty excited to feel the ambiance in the stadium.
Yeah. So when you're bootstrapping, you've got to be resourceful. All you've got to do when you're bootstrapping is get far enough so that you can start hiring people. And mindset is probably the most important thing you have. Mindset from the perspective of things are going to go bad. They're not going to work well. You're going to run into problems. There's going to be a sufficient amount of problems to keep you up at night. And you've got to have that burning desire. Napoleon Hill, he's an author, right? He has this phrase of businesses, entrepreneurs who do well are the ones that have that burning desire to succeed. And individuals outside of business as well, burning desire. So number one, you have to have that burning desire. Number two, you have to have mindset because things are going to go wrong and you've got to overcome them. What I found in my journey is the best successes come from the things that you're the best at, not the things that you think are easy, because you've got to be passionate about it. And usually the thing that you're the best at is the thing you like doing. Not always, but usually. Like I started a social media firm. It wasn't successful. I wasn't passionate about it. The thing I know how to do well, my zone of genius, is what we're doing, which is the ad buying business. So my perspective, for you and other entrepreneurs who don't have the money and have the time is the following. You need to sprint, which can take months or years. You need to sprint to product market fit. You need to know what to say. And I say in quotes because you can talk to people, you can post on social media, you can do webinars, whatever it is. You need to know what to say to get people to spend money with you. That's the first sprint goal, product market fit. From there, you need to scale up so that that product market fit, whatever works in a small space can work in a bigger space, and you might need to tweak that along the way. So you may not need to advertise right now. Maybe you do, because if you have money, if you have a little bit of money, you can learn a lot about your business faster by doing a little bit of advertising. Clients that work with us, the low end of their spend is $1,500 a month. High end is about $500,000 a month. We also have a course and coaching program, which is really designed for agencies to accelerate the growth of their agency, where they get 4 sprints talking about the mechanics of advertising, how to work with us, the advanced form of advertising that we do, and how to the business stuff about it, like how to create a successful business as an agency. And that's $197 a month on the credit card. The most valuable thing, I think, is going to be the group calls that we have weekly, where we get to ask questions and hear what the challenges that other people are having. So for you and other entrepreneurs, sprint towards product market fit. Do the as I pay attention to Gary Vaynerchuk. What he likes to say is do the stuff that's hard and that doesn't scale. Like, post on social media for a month and a half. Find the right types of things that people come back to you with. When you post your offering, when you talk about your services and your coaching and your plan, what do people say when they don't buy from you? I don't have the money. I don't know if this works. I'm scared to do it because I might become too good at it, and then watch out world. Like, what are the things? And then part of getting that product market fit comes about with learning your language. It's actually, so 10 years in advertising, I learned how to do media buying. I understand the intricacies. There's this whole evolution of data targeting and automation that came into the business. It's called programmatic advertising. And I was at the forefront of that. I didn't create stuff. I knew how to use it. I'm not a technology guy. I'm still a business guy. And I had to get out of that mindset. I didn't know how to sell. I'm not a seller. I've never had a job where I made 30 calls a day or whatever the case is. Okay. I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this because I don't know how to get people to buy from me. AKA, I didn't have product market fit.
You didn't know how to sell?
Huh?
You didn't know how to sell?
No. What's really been, I just knew the tech. I knew how to run advertising campaigns on really like esoteric tools, media math, the trade desk, Simplify. And no one knew what I was talking about when I started my business because they didn't care. Because the business owner who has a restaurant doesn't care about how smart I am. He cares that can I get him butts and seats to order food? And I have to talk to him on the level that he's at. Meet me where we're at. Meet them where they're at. So the benefit of doing this, dedicating your professional energy to one thing, is you get to learn how to talk about it over time. You'll figure out your language. And once you figure it out, it's like riding a bicycle. Someone can wake you up at 2 a.m. and ask you about your business, and you'll be selling. Because it's the same thing over and over and over again. But that only happens once you've figured out your product market fit. You know the motivating factors, the motivations for people to buy from you. So it's, even if you don't know how to sell, it's really good. I got really uncomfortable talking in meetings because I'd be in meetings with people who are 20, 25 years older than me, much more experience than I had. I had really senior positions at like 27, 28 years old, director of media buying or director of digital, whatever. I was a vice president at like 31 or something. I was dramatically young for the type of responsibility I had. And it showed up when I was in meetings and I couldn't be as effective in meetings as I would have liked to be. But the solution to that was, number one, Toastmasters. And number two, when I started my own business, I was like, yeah, I just got to figure out my, as they say in the rap game, you got to spit your game, right?
Right.
You got to know how to talk about it. And once you do, it's there forever. Sorry, I went on a tirade, on a tangent, but it's
No, it's great. Yeah, I think I had a recent guest on. He was saying how I've only ever been a host. I haven't been a guest, but he's mostly a guest and on podcasts. And he said his voice, like in
Mhm.
quotes, sort of changed, and he dialed it in as he has moved along in his process and sort of found who, his personal brand and what he wanted to sell. And I think that's important for anybody that wants to get into this game, right? Just
You gotta put in your reps, right? That's the point of all this. Like, and this is why time is so important, because you're looking for like 1% incremental improvement a day. That's 3 times incremental improvement over the course of a year. And the way you do that is reps. You do the same thing over and over again until you get incredibly good at it.
Yeah, even again, to use a podcast example, I forget who it was. I think Chris Williamson, if you know this podcaster, he was saying how most podcasts only have, um, what is it, 50% of podcasts only have 5 episodes, and then 95% of podcasts only have 20 episodes. I'm probably butchering the statistic, but it's roughly around that area.
Yeah,
So, consistency, right? Consistency is the game. Like you said,
that's it.
1% a day, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, I'm sure you agree where people see this massive goal in front of them and then they don't try and break it down. I think people get overwhelmed and then they don't take a step every day. They're afraid of making mistakes. Um, Maybe they have insecurities, or they have personal limiting beliefs that they need to overcome before they can move forward. Not that you can ever really get rid of everything, because I have found new layers every time I get to a new, let's call it level.
Yeah.
You sort of like an onion, you peel to the next level of limiting beliefs that you need to break through. So
I don't think that goes away. So so I'm 42. I've been in advertising for 20 years, 10 years in my business. And there were times in my business where I was like, oh, this business is running me. I'm not running this business. I was like waking up really early. I was sitting on the toilet, literally on my computer, trying to manage campaigns. I had to get out the door, like in 45 minutes. I just didn't have the time. And my then girlfriend, now wife, was like, bro, come on. Like, you're messing this up. This is not how it's supposed to be. I was like, no, I just got to work harder. I can work harder, until you realize there's not enough hours in the day to do everything you got to hire. Just today, I was sick for about a month. I had the flu, but like the worst flu I've had like in a decade or 7 years or something. I don't remember when I felt worse. Then I went to a conference. And so this is the first week I'm back, the full week, actually able to work. I am so behind on so many things. Plus, I've got to reach out to certain people from the conference. And just today, I had that exact issue of I'm feeling overwhelmed. There's so much I need to do. My brain bounces from sending sales emails, doing my PR outreach, talking to podcasts. I've got to actually be on the meetings. And I literally had 15 minutes, and I'm just like, just do something. Just do one of those things, because I'm everywhere and I just need to focus. And this goes back to the person who hasn't started yet, or is scared of starting, or has started and kind of stopped. If you want to hear a great story about starting and then stopping, 2013, I was like, okay, I'm going to start this business. Didn't have a job. I had worked 10 years, but like the company I worked for ceased to exist. They went bankrupt. I was like, I'm going to start my own agency. Now's the time. I've got to do it. Had dinner with my wife. We went to a fancy dinner to celebrate how I'm going to start my own business. I took a job 3 weeks later. I took a full-time job 3 weeks later. I stopped. I put on hold in terms of attention to growing my business for a year and like 2 months. I took a full-on job, but the itch, I had to scratch the itch. It was in the back of my head. And I was like, oh man, I should have been doing this. And it felt like my life was over because I didn't scratch the itch. And I had to do it. It was so painful for me not to do it, so I had to do it. But, you know, It's okay to like do one thing. I created the LLC in 2013. That's all I did. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And then I got scared and I took a job. It's okay to do that and then work at another place for a year and a few months or however long it is, and then realize that this is the thing that you really need to do. One of the things I really appreciate is how much time we have. Time gives us opportunity to do a lot of things. And if it stresses you out to think about all the things you have to do, just give it time. Do that 1% incremental increase a day. And I still do this other thing, which is I chunk out my time, which is like, you mentioned it to a degree. Like last night, I had to watch some videos for this training that I have to learn from other people, and I had to watch these videos. And I was like, I'm so tired, and I took some tussin, and I was like, I'm gonna go to sleep early. But I did the things this was 2 or 3 nights ago now. I did the thing. I watched the videos, and I was prepared for my call the next day. Just do it. Give yourself 20 minutes to figure it out. Usually that 10 or 20-minute time starting on something revs up your brain, tunes it, and by the time the 10 or 20 minutes is up, if you don't feel like doing it anymore, you stop. But you're probably going to finish the task because now your brain is revved for it.
And I feel like it's important to not get attached to the result, right? A lot of people prevent themselves from doing things because they want it to be perfect and perfect the first time. And then that can prevent you from actually getting the one task done. So
Perfect is a
perfection.
cop out.
Mm,
Perfect is a cop out. That's for people who don't actually want to get stuff done.
I
That's
love
a
it.
cop out.
I also love what you said earlier about how you just had an itch that you had to scratch. I often find that it on like I sometimes I hate saying it like entrepreneurship, but that's just for the sake of this conversation.
What
But
do you
this,
what do you what do you call two white guys in a room? A podcast.
you go. It's like when people put CEO in their Instagram or something like that, like depending on where you are in your journey, it can itch me too. But anyways, what was I saying? When you said that you had an itch that you just had to scratch, I find that often people that want to start their own business, that's a better way of saying it, um, it's not like it's just the only option that they have in their head, right? There's just no alternative because it's not like this, I guess, way of life is easier. It's if anything, it's much more difficult. And having a 9 to 5 is easy. You know where you're going to go every day. You know what you're going to do every day. You know your expectations, and you know what your general trajectory is going to be. So,
Yeah,
if
yeah. It doesn't. I remember my sociology class from college. This was now like 23 or 4 years ago, and they said that the people who are most stressed in a business are the people in the middle and at the bottom of an organization. The reason they're the most stressed is because they don't have any insight into what's going on with the business, and they may feel they're always at risk. So as a person who was an employee and a person who is now an entrepreneur, I definitely felt that stress of like, oh man, I hope I'm doing a good job and I hope my boss doesn't fire me because I want to take a 2-week freaking vacation. Like, or whatever it is, like, oh man, they're going to hold this against me. There was one time I was so paranoid. There was one time that I had heard that my company had put out a job listing for some position, like some senior digital position. I was like, oh man, they're getting ready to fire me. They never fired me. And so I think that's stress. I think if you've never been an entrepreneur, being an employee is very difficult. It's risky. People tell the common knowledge is that having a job is the less risky option. It is equally as risky. Tens of thousands of people in technology are being let go because you don't control your fate. And that was one of the reasons why I had to scratch this itch because I didn't control my fate. And I was also a bad employee. I became a bad employee. I became hard to work with and challenging. And I just didn't like the structure of the team I was working for. And they're good people, smart people, but not yeah, the very, very, very last job I took, the one I got after I decided to start my business. And but I agree. Going from employee to entrepreneur, work dramatically harder as an entrepreneur than an employee. It never ends.
Doesn't
And
feel as much as work though. And ironically, one of my key themes is wanting to take ownership of my life, and like you were saying, as an employee, you're not in control of your life. You don't know what's going to happen. But but ironically, you sort of have to let go if you want to be an entrepreneur as well, right? There's a it's a funny, like maybe double-edged sword is the word, but
yeah,
yeah. So you if you want to take control of your life, you also need to let go because there's a fake certainty in your head of having that 9 to 5. So
yeah, it's not safe. And you can talk to anyone who's been laid off. It is not safe. And the horrible part about it is the fakeness of corporate environments, the politics of corporate environments. Um, you know, you may not have a job because someone doesn't like the intonations in your voice, or someone like, or because you said the wrong thing that was meant as a joke, but someone took like all these types of things are challenging. And at some point, I was like, I'm done. There was a time in my life in 2010 when I said, I'm never going to write another media plan. And I didn't for corporate clients. I didn't as an employee. I stopped writing media plans. I could delegate that out to people, which are just like, where are you going to run? How much are you going to spend? Who's the targeting? Et cetera. When are the ads going to run? I was like, all right, I'm promoting. I'm doing other things. I want bigger and better and more interesting and more difficult challenges. And being an entrepreneur is the utmost challenge, I think. It was one of the motivating factors for me. I want to make the money I want to make. I want to work in advertising. Check, those were good. But also I didn't think I'd be able to become a CEO. Like I didn't see a path for me to be the CEO. I don't have a master's degree or an MBA. I didn't graduate with a bachelor's degree from a particularly esteemed school like my peers did at USC and UCLA and et cetera. And I just didn't see a situation where I'd be able to gather the expertise to even be qualified to be a CEO. And so one of the benefits, one of the things I realized in me starting this business is I wanted bigger and badder challenges to overcome. And I'm
to,
getting that.
to your note on good schools, I mean, I technically went to Stanford, and let me tell you, it means nothing. Like in the long term, I mean, I appreciate everything I learned there, and there's some amazing people. You're surrounded by all these tech companies, but at the end of the day, um, universities still are sort of creating employees, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
there's still value in it. I'm not going to tell everybody should not go to college or something.
Yeah.
There's no. I'm not an extremes person, type of person, but you can often overvalue things, and I found that some people are just prouder of, or it's just an ego attachment to, oh, I went to this school or I went to that school, oftentimes, and there's no actual, you know, in stone value that you've produced, especially if you're sort of in that cycle in a 9 to 5, and or in a quote unquote um good trajectory, right? Or so it's all perspective and egoic attachment, in my opinion. So
If I could add to that, I mean, so my very first job, well, it started as an intern, then I got a job. 2003, I was at Universal Music while I was still in college. Man, it was so fun. Related to this point is, we were, Cal State Northridge is in the Valley. You have USC, you have UCLA. Those are the three main schools, and then Universal Music was sort of geographically in the middle of that. Universal City, it's where Universal Studios is. And I was with interning and then got hired with people who went to USC and UCLA. And I got turned on to the USC a cappella group called the SoCal Vocals. phenomenal, phenomenal group. This was a cappella before Glee was a thing, right? So I was great music, incredible people. Um, the the day I got hired at my first agency job in 2004, or the week I got hired, another person got hired, this woman named Deborah Lamon, who I don't know, has some dramatically big job at this point. I don't know where she might be at Amazon. I don't know where she is. And this woman, she was the student president of the president of the student body at USC. I was working as a peer to this woman who ran a massive organization already. I was 24. I didn't know my ass from my face at 24.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, person who has done all kinds of incredible things, and somehow I'm in this group with all these people. So I was very fortunate that I got into these situations, these prestigious situations.
I might have lost you there. How does the acapella group tie in?
Oh, so I was saying Universal Music, I happened to be, interning with and then got hired with
Mm.
people at USC. And so one of them was a singer for the a cappella group. And so what I think is valuable about the joke was, yeah, but they have amazing a cappella groups. But more interestingly, they have, I think, networks. You know, you have these really big political and institutional or corporate or leaders, and you find out they come from Harvard and Yale and Stanford,
Mhm.
Stanford in California, right?
Yeah, yeah. In the
And
Bay.
Berkeley, all these big schools. And it was a real. I recognized how fortunate I was to be in a position as peers with these people from these really big schools. And I didn't slack. I didn't slouch on that. I was working my butt off to make sure I earned my keep earn my stay every day.
Hmm. So I'm gonna start asking all my guests sort of their top 3 books, and not to put you on the spot, but
Okay.
if you want to share 1 or 3 books, if on advertising, on anything that you'd want to share.
Yeah. I mean, I like Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. I think it's really interesting to hear how people are set up for success by chance and opportunity. One story from that book is there's a flight that resulted in a crash, and the reason the plane crashed was because what happened was the second pilot in command had identified a problem. The pilot didn't see the problem, didn't understand that there was an issue. But the reason it resulted in a crash was because the second pilot culturally wasn't in a position to speak up and raise an alarm to the pilot who had already who had quashed it and said, "No, there's no issue. We're fine." And this is whenever there's an issue in my business, I point to that story to say, "Look, you guys just need to communicate better. You can't be ships passing in the night, barely missing each other over the course of not reading a Slack or missing a Slack message or something like that." So I really like this idea in Outliers that there are things that we can control in our lives that supersede chance, and some of that can be communication. So that's number one. Number two is Robert Cialdini. He has a book, Persuasion, and my third book is going to be his follow-up, which is Persuasion. The core ideas across both books are that there are things people do that will automatically trigger reciprocity or some other thing that results in people buying from you. Like, for example, if you're on this, I was just in Vegas, and I saw this in Vegas, but he was referencing in the 1970s airports. There were like Buddhist monks, and Buddhist monks would hand you like a leaf or a flower or some sort of little thing, and you take it, and then they'd ask you for something, and you'd feel indebted to them to hand them over some money or something. You didn't want the thing to begin with, but you feel like you have to reciprocate because you were given something. So it's not about using psychological tricks on people. It's much more about understanding human behavior as a consumer and also as a marketer. And then persuasion is about priming people to be interested in buying from you. So, for example, an idea around persuasion is, um, if I'm in a sales conversation in any way, I'm going to mention something that requires a high number, because then my price will be far lower than that high number. That number could be unrelated to price.
Mm.
It's just the fundamental idea that, like, people anchor around, hey, how much do you cost? $1 million. No, actually, it's $1,500 a month. Okay, that sounds a lot better than $1 million. Or the idea that you mentioned something that, 1 million ad impressions, but we start at $1,500. 1 million, 1,500 sounds better. And it sounds more reasonable and effective for people to buy when 1,500 is compared to 1 million, as an example. So outliers, persuasion, and persuasion, Malcolm Gladwell, and then Robert Cialdini for the last two books.
I love it. That sort of brought to mind, what is this movie with Will Smith where he ran a bet and he had his co-star was Margot Robbie. I'm forgetting the name of this movie, but he sort of just primed her, giving her number after number after number, and then they made a bet as to what number football player they'd pick, and she picked the right number, but he didn't tell her the number. He could have.
Right.
They were both doing gambling bets and things like that, but he
Sure,
didn't
sure.
tell her so that she acted normal. But that's a
100%.
little bit different, but yeah, so sort of along the lines came to mind. But awesome. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Robert. It was great chatting with you. Learned a lot. If you want to share how people can find you, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Andres. So if you want to work with us, advertising and marketing services, or you want to understand more about the Agency Accelerator program, go to brillmedia.co. B as in boy, RILL media.co, and you can find us, and you'll be asked to start now. Schedule a time to talk with us, and you can talk with me to talk about your marketing and advertising.
Awesome. Thanks again, Robert.
Thank you.